Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Buenos días, damas y caballeros. My name is Sung-Hoon Kim, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the International Civil Aviation Organization's 40th Assembly SkyTalks. During the next 2 weeks, we have a total of 68 presentations from the aviation industry professionals from wide topics ranging from education to jobs to gender to aviation security, drones, and environment, and a whole lot more. Today we continue our discussion on big data, and I'd like to welcome our speaker, Julie Zabrodska.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you for everyone for joining. I'm very happy to be here today and to present to you the ICAN event. My name is Julie Zabrodska, and I'm the Associate Aviation Officer in the Economic Development section of the Air Transport Bureau in ICAO. So, first of all, what does ICAN stand for? ICAN stands for the ICAO Air Services Negotiation event. This is an annual event that takes place in different parts of the world, in different regions, on a rotational basis. Its main goal is to gather states for them to discuss, exchange on, and negotiate air service agreements. The design of ICAN is to be a one-stop forum within a time frame of 5 days, during which the states, the participating states, have the opportunity to share their experience, to learn about current trends in the air transport industry, also to network, but most importantly, it is the unique opportunity for participating states to conduct state-to-state closed meetings. And by definition, ICAN has been designed to be primarily for states. However, in recent years, we have also opened it up for other aviation stakeholders. In order to properly introduce ICAN, I would like to talk to you briefly about air transport in general. As you may know, air transport sustains more than 60 million jobs worldwide, contributes more than 2.7 trillion USD to the world's GDP, and furthermore, it is also forecasted to double by 2035. So here we can see the significant socio-economic benefits right at hand. However, these benefits are conditioned by the existence and the establishment of supporting and enabling frameworks for this. We see a major challenge, actually, to these frameworks, and that is currently the fragmentation of air service markets and economies, which are currently governed by very complex bilateral or regional agreements. And this is what ICAO is trying to address with ICAN. And also ICAN is part of ICAO's long-term vision for the liberalization of the international air transport. So within this vision in mind, ICAO has launched the first ICAN event in 2008 in Dubai, in the UAE. Since then, we have held 10 more events, and we have the 11th edition coming up this year in December. I will tell you more about that later. Throughout these years, we have seen a growing popularity of the ICAN event. We can see that based on numbers, as in 2008 in Dubai, we had 20 states with 100 participants. Last year, in Nairobi, in Kenya, we had 71 states and 470 participants. I also need to mention our record year, which was in 2015 in Turkey, when we had 95 participating states and over 580 participants. So that was a very big year. But more importantly than to talk about participation, we can showcase the importance or the popularity of ICAN through the number of agreements that have been concluded during the event. In 2008, at the launch of ICAN, we have seen 20 agreements concluded. And last year in Kenya, we have seen 420 agreements concluded, so 400 more. And during our peak year in Turkey, we have had more than 500 agreements. That includes also amendments registered in link with the ICAN. So you may have noticed that we talk a lot about air service agreements. It is natural as it is the core of the ICAN event. And I would just like to put a little refresher and to put air services agreements into their historical context to understand the importance of the event. So we have heard about it many times during this assembly. The Chicago Convention was signed 75 years ago. However, at that time, the signatory states had convened that any clauses related to air traffic rights will not or shall not be governed by multilateral agreements, but should instead be governed by individual state-to-state bilateral agreements. The first of this kind was the UK-US agreement, also called the Bermuda Agreement, as you may know. Since then, many things have changed, and so have the air service agreements. They have evolved, they have naturally grown, changed, and shaped according to the industry. We are seeing a transition from the so-called traditional agreements towards progressive liberalization of these agreements. And that is defined by the content that is inside these agreements. These agreements can be very rich in content, but some of the major points are, of course, granting of air traffic rights. It can be determination of capacity. It can also be designation of carrier and routes. It can be many other provisions pertaining, for example, to transit procedures, custom duties, airport charges, recognition of certifications, and many other matters. So you can imagine that there are many topics that need to be discussed and reviewed on a regular basis. And that is actually exactly where ICAO with ICAN fits in the picture. As mentioned before, ICAN is a central meeting place where states can conduct as many meetings, bilateral or with multiple parties, as necessary over the course of that designated time frame. As an example, during our peak year in Turkey, we have had more than 600 meetings over those 5 days. So you can imagine that is very intense. An important point around these meetings is also that they are secure and private, which provides the parties the freedom and the liberty to discuss their concerns openly. Here we see the clear advantage or the added value of the event, as instead of states having to travel separately for each negotiation process, for each follow-up discussion, for other talks concerning that negotiation, they can do so on one place with multiple stakeholders, with multiple parties as necessary. This leads to very improved efficiency in the negotiation process and reduced costs, also reduced time spent on these negotiation processes. There's also a little green element to that because there is less travel required. Furthermore, ICAN is not only about those meetings. As mentioned in the introduction, it also has a very rich program that involves multiple workshops on current topics in the industry, as well as networking events. So by hosting this event, ICAO positions itself as the facilitator of dialogue among states, as well as the promoter of cooperation for the evolution of the air transport industry. And from a practical perspective, you can imagine that holding so many meetings over the course of 5 days can be very challenging. That is why we have in place a very practical online tool that is at the disposition of participating states right from the start. This means that on this website or the digital tool, the states can register themselves, they can update their information, register more participants. From a certain point, they can already start scheduling their meetings with the parties they want to ahead of the event. And they can, of course, also monitor the program through this digital tool. And I can tell you that from an organizational perspective, or at least I think so, the magic really happens before the event itself. It happens several months before, when ICAO and the host state sign together a hosting agreement. This agreement defines the roles and responsibilities of each party. So, for example, ICAO is in charge of sending out state letters to invite the states. ICAO is also in charge of updating the website, of putting in place the digital tool, of structuring the program. The host state, on the other hand, is in charge of securing an appropriate venue, the facilities and the equipment required, as well as the staff that will be on place. There are also roles and responsibilities that are of joint nature, which is, for example, promotion. And at this point, I would like to say that for this year's ICAN, as mentioned, we are happy to share with you the promotional video shared with us by Jordan. So I would like to share with you the video right now, and I will tell you more about the event after the video. Thank you very much. I will now forward to actually the slides to tell you more about There we go. Perfect. So that was a very nice video to show us and to promote the upcoming ICAN event that will be held in Aqaba, in the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, on from December 2nd to December 6th of this year. We are happy to announce that we already have 63 participating states, and we hope to see much more of you there if possible. Thank you very much for your attention.
Should anyone have any questions, I would like to invite you up to the mic. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you very much.